Hey everyone, Greg at the Custom Fisherman, here with Chris Adams, Wind Grips, MHX Dude, Guru, Pro Staffer.
Absolutely.
Down here, a little north of Kissimmee in the St. John River area, outside of Deltona, and there's a lot of grass we're fishing today.
Yeah, tons. You know, we're looking for Kissimmee grass. We're looking for gator grass, kind of matted up, anywhere that you know, the sun, the fish can get out of the sun and out of that heat, and maybe drink some coffee.
There you go.
Yeah,
you get a little buzz.
That's it.
So the sun really kind of pushes them. Of course, Florida's got a lot of pads, but you know, the depth isn't always right, whereas grass sometimes you get that shade, that structure, and that right marriage of depth. And you got soft plastic here you guys like to run. How do you rig this?
Yeah, absolutely. This is actually a Big Easy by Gambler. Everybody in this kind of part of the world knows about those guys. This is a swim bait hook, okay? So this is got a screw lock in it. I'm going to kind of break it apart here for you. So this is an 1/8 ounce lead on there. And this is a 7/0 swim bait hook. So it's a big hook, but you know, we're targeting big fish. So you can see I'm backing this bait off and it's got a screw lock. It's got a center pin screw lock on it.
Gotcha.
So as you thread this bait on, I'm just going to walk it back in there while we're talking. It's going to keep it centered. It's going to run true. And then it also, when you rig it up, the fish are going to blow up on this pretty violently. You know, so they're coming out of the pads and out of their spawn areas, and they're coming to that Kissimmee grass that's typically on the outside, and they're looking for bluegill. This one imitates a shiner. They're looking for that shad this time of year. So anytime that those fish are cruising those grass lines, this comes barreling through there, and they slam it. It's got a lot of action.
Right. So the hook is designed with the screw in top, if you will. You really don't want to try and reuse a worm hook or something like that, where you kind of put the tip through and try and straighten it out. It really needs to run true in order to get that paddle tail to flop around a lot.
And you know, it's personal preference, because I've got, you could probably pin us in a room with 10 guys and 5 guys would say you need to run it on a giant worm hook, and 5 guys would say no, you need to run it on a swim bait hook.
Right.
I've tried it both, and I really like the screw lock. So that's just is what it is for me.
Right. How's the hookup ratio with those? I see it's got kind of a built-in design, the ridge on the top. Is that for the hook to kind of, you know, penetrate the fish's mouth a little easier?
Yeah, it's got a groove in here, so you can actually run it out and turn the hook in there, and it stays to a point where you can run your hand over the top, just like you'd be running it through pads, and that hook point's not going to grab it. But another reason I like that screw lock is because when I press on that bait here, it does have some give, and that hook point pops out.
Right.
So if it gets real heavy cover, I can just tuck it in there. But you know, typically I run it just barely out, and that's kind of how that bait is designed by them, to keep it in that kind of trough.
Gotcha. And I would assume you've got, what, a 1/8 ounce weight on that? Different sizes, obviously, higher, lower. Do they make them without the weight? You want to run a little bit more on top, or do you really need to kind of keep it at a certain level to get enough water to move the tail?
Yeah, you know, it's one of those kind of let the fish tell you what's going on. You know, this particular hook comes in a 1/4 and an 1/8. So, you know, some guys you can run a 1/4 but still run it fast enough if you got a quick enough reel that you can get a little more distance but still keep it up.
Gotcha.
And then, you know, if you get out to the grass lines and those fish really aren't blowing up on it, sometimes you can ease it out there and then kill it, you know, and it'll fall down like it's wounded, and it'll kind of glide down a little bit, and that tail will kick and they'll eat it then.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Now, the rig you got set up, tell us about the line and length and action you like to use to throw these kinds of lures.
This is a 7.3 heavy. It's a MB874 from MHX, and it's 7 feet 3 inches. It's a 4-power. This is one of those that I carry 3 or 4 of them in the boat.
Right.
You know, it's Florida. We're throwing braid. We're throwing 20 fluoro. Heavy action is here. You know, I'm running it. You know, kind of small guides, but not. These aren't micros. Just because I'm running straight braid on this or straight fluoro, there's no leaders involved in it, so that line flies right out. And I usually run this on a pretty quick reel, 7-to-1, and got the wind grips on here because, like today, it's going to be in the 90s, and surprisingly, these don't get hot, but they kind of, you know, you can grab them and grip them and set the hook on a big fish without your hands.
They almost get tackier with a little bit of sweat on your palm.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
yeah, it's kind of getting them seasoned in a little bit.
Right.
But yep, 50-pound braid and get them out of that heavy cover.
There you go. Large soft plastics and Kissimmee grass. Big fish.